Emmanuel, Selassie, Jah, Rastafari. Give thanks once again on the African Liberation Network, Give thanks for all tuning in near and far. We give thanks, for the mighty life giver and preserver and keeper of life. Yeah, man. Tonight's topic, I want to elaborate on why did King Manuel put the woman up front? Why did he say to put the Black queens up front in this time, And I'd just like to go over the general principles of the sisters, what we read every morning on the roll call line, And then I'll go into giving the clearance, of why the man come and sets us principles for the queens and why he called for them to go up front, Because we know most religions out there and most men in general, they've been taught to put the woman behind, The man should be up front and the woman should be behind. So what does King Emmanuel mean when he said put the woman up front, So I'll go into reading the order of conduct for the Empress and the Goddess and the Prophetess. I, the Right Honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards, say, sisters must help us, the brethren, strength to strength. Every Empress should live within the true divinity and humbleness of Queen Omega. Empress' voice should not be loud and vulgar, but should be soft and humble to reflect the true spirit of a virtuous woman and the integrity of the goddess of the earth. A true goddess should see it free to strengthen the God and flesh. Therefore, all emperors should see it free through the love of God and flesh to help the brethren within washing, cleaning, and sewing. Brethren should free up the gates and allow the sisters to move through freely. Brethren or sisters must not be seen at each other's gates after 6 p.m. Every empress who has a king man should show him about the empress principles concerning the 21 days journey. King man after that could not say he did not know about them. These principles are a spiritual guidance for all emperors on such 21-day journey and for those who they come amongst when free. General principles. All emperors should be properly dressed inside and outside of their gates. I as gods and goddesses should live within the unity and love of salvation and help each other spiritually and temporally. Any empress who has a house should be willing to take into their gates other empress who are in need. 2 or 3 empress can live together if need arise. Any empress who has the little ones to culture them to be humble and quiet. All empress who have manners and respect and reverence to the priests, bigger prophets, and empress at all times. The children should be taught to know their place from early childhood to respect and obey God in flesh and know that man is God and God is man in flesh. If an empress is ministering unfree and has her children with her, she should teach them how to behave during such time, knowing that they should not touch anyone or go any place where free ones gather. Youth man should not live with his mother when she's on her journey, unless he is sent there because of bad behavior. The right place for a young man to grow up is amongst man, for that is what he's growing up to be. Any empress who has a priest or a prophet that she loves should come to the God of love, who is in such authority. No side movements should take place. Both individuals should find themselves going through the gate. All these things should be rectified within the Empress League to bring back everyone to a natural family within salvation. That's the key point right there. All these things should be rectified within the Empress League to bring back everyone to a natural family within salvation. That's a heavy load right there. You see, Jah put on the Empress League. You see it right there, Jah showing you that the Empress League has to bring everything to rectification. What's going on in the government, That's showing you clear right there that the Empress play a big role within the government, And to even back this up, if you go back into antiquity, when the Black Queens was ruling, and the significance of the Black queens before they came down to this level where the Christian society teaching you that sin became in the world from the woman. You know, it was a woman who manipulated Adam and caused all this confusion in the earth to try to, you know, bring a bad stain on the queens, you know. And the queens do have that power to create and they have the power to destroy, same way. You know, they can manipulate leaders of the world, you know, to destroy nations. Yes, they have that power. And they have the power to create. They have the power to build nations. You know, they have the power to flourish empires, you know. So when you go back to antiquity, let's say going back to the ancient walls, you know, in Ethiopia, northern Ethiopia, most of the symbols or the goddesses on the walls, they represent basically all life in our existence. You see it. You have the first goddess. They have a set, you know, that represent the first mother that gave birth to the first king, you know, Asa, and gave birth to the first Christ, Heru. You see, because she represents the throne. You see, she represents the seat of power. The woman always was the ruler seat. You see, so when you see a king sitting on the throne, that throne represents the woman's lap, Mother Earth's lap. You see it. So through her, that's where the man get his power. You know, that's where the man get his rulership. You see it. And then from a set, you go to another goddess called Bath. You see it represent a cat, represent a lioness. You see it. Bath, you know, she carries the system of music. She represents music. You see it, good sounds, lovers of music, dance, and pleasure. You know, that's the type of spirit that Bath carry. You know, and then we have a other goddess called Mahat. That's where you have the principles of life. You know, the laws of Mahat. You know, most ones know of that. You know, 42 laws. You know, of Mahat that governs all life. You see, that's a feminine energy. That represent a queen. That represent a mother. You see it, and the laws of Mahat is like how we have the 10 Commandments today. You see, so the commandments represent a feminine energy. You see, just like the Sabbath represent the feminine energy. If you look in the Falasha and you see that Jah always refer to the Sabbath as a she. You see it, a feminine energy. And you get Hathor, that's the next goddess. That's the third goddess, represent the calf. You see it? And they try to give us a negative image of the calf too, but like saying Moses and Aaron was praising graven images and the calf or whatever, but the calf represents fertility. That's where you see her with the calf horn on top of her head with the moon. You see, because the moon represents fertility, same way. That's where most like farmers and in the agricultural world, they farm on the full moon. They plant when the full moon is out. Different moons, different phases of the moon, they plant different crops. You see it? And then when the full moon comes, tide rises. You see it? And you know the woman represent the water. Even the water we drink, that's a feminine. You see it? So everything leads back to the goddess, you know, the mother of creation. You see it? And that's what they took from us through this Babylon teachings, through this, you know, religious theology they give us today. They teach us that, you know, the woman is negative, the woman is bad. You know, they teach us to disrespect the woman, you know, they teach us to not look at her as divine. You see it? So that's why you see in North ancient empires, women was rulers. You see, you have women that was generals, you know, they was leading armies. You see it? They was going on into battle and they was destroying their foes. You see it? Like Hatshepsut, you have Nefertiri, You have we call it now, even in this modern time, you could see that Empress Title was on her king's side, and she had soldiers of her own on the battlefield, destroying the Italian army. You see it. So through history, you can see the black woman in antiquity was rulers. They wasn't just keeping house and cleaning up and cooking and them thing there. They was in the council, they was in the parliament, they was, there was governors. It's nothing wrong for an empress to be in the parliament or in the council and to give orders or to even give advice to other men, you know, and coming with ideas how to rule an empire, how to make the empire better. Because you gotta realize now the women are more compassionate than the man. They more caring, they more give a just judge, a righteous woman. And then you have a woman that is conniving and wicked. They could really bring destruction the same way too. You see it? So we give thanks, for the queens them in antiquity that was rulers, that was governing things, that was rectifying their nation, their house. You see it? They wasn't just sitting down and just being a housewife. You see it? And you have a next goddess called a Nephet. Nephet, she represents harmony, peace, she represents all things of peace, flowers, green life. You see it? All these is different goddesses they have on the walls that represent different principles in nature. You see it? And you have a next goddess named Nat. Nat, she's like a balance, she's like a balance, like she deal with righteousness and she destroys like anger, she destroys hatred, she destroys greed and jealousy. She comes like with a bow and an arrow and she shoot her enemies. You see it? All them were dealing with envy and lust and thing. She come to destroy that. You see, that's what her principle is. And then you have the goddess Nu. She represents, the atmosphere. She represents, the waters. She represents, the skies. She represents above us. So you see, they have different goddesses that represent above, below, so that can show you that she was the first. She is the one that really bring order into the world. You see it? Once you study the black woman in antiquity, you'll see the power she really possessed. You'll see that she is great. She's much greater than what you see there is today. You have the goddess Sekhmet that represents the lioness. They call her the powerful one. When she upset, she destroys. She brings earthquake. She brings all type of natural disasters. She brings destruction. When she is upset. With the world. And then you have a next goddess named Saket. Saket is more like she's a goddess that deal with like protection of the dead. Like she protect the souls when they coming out of their structure. She protect their soul and guide them so they could sail on smoother seas in the celestial realm. She make sure they soul at peace. You see it? And you have a next goddess named Saket. Saket represents numbers. You see, she's the first goddess that come to teach numbers and mathematics and literature and all these things. You see it? So they show you right here that the black one was the first nurturer. She was the first teacher. If you look at nature, the animals, birds, the babies depend on them. The cubs depend on them. The chicks depend on the hen. You don't see papa nowhere. You don't see the fathers nowhere when they're in their young stage. It's always mother teaching them how to hunt, teaching them right from wrong. You see it? So it's always the mother who was the first teacher. You see it? And yes, just say when you have a prince, the prince should be around his father. That's when the prince start to get mature, like to talk and start to know right from wrong or whatever like that. Of course, you don't want him to be around the mother, to start adapting like a little feminine that feminine character. You want him to be around the masculine character where he could learn how to, work, teach him how to do certain things, came out in the field, teach him how to farm, do masculine things, of course. But when he between 1 to 2 and 3, mama sit down, teach him 1, 2, 3, ABCs, teach him how to read, whilst Papa go out there and try to, make hands meet. So that's the role the goddess them played from antiquity, the role of creation, the role of bringing in, bringing in civilizations, bringing in rulership, bringing in, that kingship. You see it? The king had to get his rulership from the queen. You see it? Even in this modern times, you go to the Haitian Revolution, like enough, they only know about Dessalines and Toussaint. But if you really search and look into history, the queens and play a big role in the Haitian Revolution. You have queens like Cecile, Fatima. She was leading armies. She was like a mastermind. She was like a commander. You see, she would go and try to make peace with these French generals, and through through the European teachings, they don't respect women. That's where we got that. Not say we, like me personally, or I mean in general, like the man in general. They got this disrespect for women from the European teachings. You see, they never looked at us as our queens, as rulers, as commanders, as generals of armies. That's why when you see they reach into Africa and they saw the queens sitting on thrones and ruling, they got upset with that. Although if you go in the Vatican, you'll see the Pope praising the Black mother and child behind closed doors. They more dealing with sodomism. They don't respect the woman. You see it, but behind closed doors, they praising her. And then they give us, the Black man, the degeneracy of looking at her as less, looking at her as beneath us. You see it? So that's why King Manuel say put the woman up front, because he knew that that's where she was before the man coming to rulership. She was up front. So basically King Manuel orderizing how it was in the beginning to be in the end. You see it? The woman was in the beginning. Now in this time, he want I and them to put the sisters up front. You see it? Put the goddess them up front, put the empress them up front. Allow them to take part in our governmental affairs. We must come to understanding that, the women was part of the parliaments and they was council members and stuff like that, So I don't see anything wrong for Empress in Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress Church to be a part of the parliament. You see it? Because if you even look at the Constitution, if you read it and read between the lines, you could see where Jah didn't have no problem with the Empress them being in rulership and being a part of the parliament, being a part of the government and governmental affairs. You see it? If you read, let's say, the governing body, their appointment and removal and powers. The governing body of the association is the parliament, consisting of the president and 32 members. Each member of the parliament is appointed by the president. Upon his appointment, a meeting of the parliament is called, and the member is informed of his or her duties and principles of the association. That's the key words right there, his or her. Showing you that the queens them can play a part in the parliament, can be a ruler, can be a part of rulership. You see it? They ain't just supposed to be just keeping house and that's it. And making mats and just staying in and cooking and, like that submissive type of lifestyle that how y'all have it. Because you have enough individuals, they always criticize, but what Shanti's saying, oh, them is leave the empress them up there, and they have them, lock up inside imprisonment, and they don't let them out. They can't do this, they can't do that, because ones, do know how to clarify it well. I don't know, ones don't know how to give them the full clearance, what this Congress stand for. I don't know, but just reading the Constitution, you can see that the empress them, God give them a freedom to play part in the governmental rules of the church. They ain't just supposed to be keeping house and cooking and being a mother of children in the homes, and and cleaning up and doing a little domestic affairs or whatever like that. They could go out and deal with statical and governmental affairs. I have a letter that Jah sent Empress Lily to meet Princess Margaret on a statical affair. When Princess Margaret visited Jamaica, he authorized Empress Lily to go and meet a princess, well, a queen meeting the princess. That's how he said on the pamphlet, on the document, saying a queen meeting the princess. So he called Empress Lily the queen and meeting Princess Margaret. So that's that show you right there that Jah was trying to put the woman them up front to deal with the statical and governmental affairs. You see it? So we give thanks, for such understanding. You see it, that the woman them was the matriarchs, first. The matriarchs was first on the battlefield, cutting and clearing the way the patriots, The heroes had to come out of the sheroes. You see it? That's why you see Jah say when Elizabeth heard of Mary having the Christ, she said, "Blessed is the fruit of thy womb." You see it? The mother who gave birth to Jah, who gave birth to King Emmanuel, who gave birth to Marcus God, who gave birth to Emperor Haile Selassie, their wombs blessed. You see it? We have to always meditate on their mothers, not only them as the Godhead, but meditate on the queens them that gave birth to them. You see it? I got a little history on Marcus Garvey's mother. She used to work on the plantations dealing with the cane and all that and thing, And he said he always felt it for, she was always humble, so she was always a humble woman, and willing to go and work and make sure, they well taken care of, and she told him she always knew that he would have been somebody great, like a Moses. His mother told him he would be a Moses. So, the queens them have that intuition. They could see beyond, the naked eye. They could see through the future, and that's a gift they have. You see, that's a gift. They could see things before it happened. You see, they could see how their child is going to become in the future. They could see if their child is going to be somebody or if they're going to be nobody from their born, from their childhood growing up. The parents could see the future of their children, especially the queens. They have that gift. And you have, talking about the Haitian Revolution, you have another queen called Toya, who was captured in Dahomey and Benin. She was caught, and sent here by ships into Haiti. And she was just like how you see in the Black Panther, he had all queens them as bodyguards. She was more like a bodyguard to the king. She didn't know martial arts, she didn't know combat. But then, in the military field. And when she reached Haiti, she ended up escaping and ended up trying to free the other sisters, and they didn't want to break free. So one of the empress them she met along the way was pregnant and had a child and gave the child to her to raise. And then she passed away doing childbirth. And she raised this child and taught him the way, taught him military strategy. You see it, how to fight, how to, deal with swords and all these things, And later on, this young boy became Dassaline. So this famous Dassaline everyone is talking about, was trained by a goddess to be the fierce warrior he is. He got that from a queen. He learned his military strategy from a queen. You see it? And this the history where they try to keep away, from I and I them. You see it? And you have another queen named Mary Jane. Mary Jane, she was a shooter. She was skillful with the gun. You see it? And she was a good sharpshooter. You see it on the battlefield. And then you have another queen called Catherine, who did the Haitian flag. And she did it as red, black, red and black at first. You see it before it was red, white, and blue. She did it like red, black. You see it, meaning black is the black people and red is the blood. And then later on, they even had a strip of green on it for the land, for Haiti, the vegetation. So the red, black, and green was always a part of a revolutionary trot, It was always part of freedom. You see it? And then you have another queen named Massetti Didi Belize. She is the same queen that basically she represent a set in this time. You see, because when they cut Dessalines up in many pieces, she was the one that went and got his body and sew it back together, just like how Aset did for Asar, who they call Osiris. You see, she was the one that wrapped the general structure up and sew it back up into place so you can have a proper burial, because the Europeans them scattered his body all over the place, and she went and grabbed the pieces and bring it back together. And that's a significant symbolism too, meaning that she is the one that brings the man back to a whole. She's the one that fashioned him back into that manhood, that warrior. You see it, resurrecting the black man. So we have to give the queens them their place, man. That putting the queens them behind and not having them take part in the fairs with demand them and thing, that need to stop. We must include the woman them in this fight. We can't win this war without them. And then you can't populate, or you can't multiply without them. See, they's the ones who bring in the warriors them. There's the main engine. That's why you see Willie Lynch attacked a woman. You see, he attacked a woman and he made her to look at the black man as, like he can't help her. He can't do anything for her, he's worthless, So he made her to look at him as the strong male figure. You see it? And then through that, he taught the man to disrespect her, just to look at her as a sex object. He used to deal with us like cattle. Like when he wanted them to breed, he just bring them on to breed, and then he put him back in his cage or whatever, like cattle, like animals. You see it? So that same indoctrination, that same mentality, it's like that get into the genes, that get into the bloodstream, and that's the practice you see majority of the black men carrying out today, looking at the black woman as a sex object. And then the other races of women, they marry them, they put them in homes. You see, they give them all the finest things, and then they treat the black woman like, she's just an object, So that type of folly mentality that gotta get destroyed, man. You gotta put our black sisters up, put them in front, And when we went on a march one time, I think for March 1st in the Bahamas, Nassau, Bahamas, we was marching to the government house. I think one time, no empress, no children was there. And I think the governor general asked, where the woman and children? Why so much man? Where's the woman and children? Like, where's the future generation? They don't want to see just a bunch of man. They want to see the woman and children. And when we start to bring the woman and children out, we start to get more respect. We start to get a better reply from the governments, from the officials and things. They start to reply at us better. They start to look at us more serious because they say, all right, these people, they have empire, they have women and children. And you see, you have women and children, they take you serious. They say, all right, they have a family. They ain't playing around. You see it? And y'all understand the psychology, he understand their mentality, when they see women and children, they know that, all right, this ain't no joke. You see it? And the women and children play an important role in society and the world, they're the future. You see it? They bring forth life. Understand? So, the main point, I was trying to make is we must start giving the Empress them the floor, create the justice box again for the queens them, man, let their voice be heard, listen to their wise advice, you know what I mean? Sometimes just sit back and let see and hear what they have to say, hear them out, hear what they have to say, because they could come with a lot of ideas to better this Congress, once we put them in front and the man them just get off they high horse, they ego and thing, and just sit down, sit small, and give the queens them the floor, man. Let the queens them go up front. You understand? It's nothing wrong with that, man. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you less than a man because the Empress is up front and dealing with so-called masculine affairs, You know what I mean? The women them was always generals, there was always governors, there was always, rulers, there was always on the battlefield going to war for us. You see it? The woman, she feel more entitled to go to war for her children than the man because she give birth to them. She carried them 9 months. She had to go through the pain of pushing them out so she could go to war for her child. She could go to war for her children. She would be willing to lay down her life for her country. You see it? Because that's the nature of a woman. Do whatever she have to do to make sure her home, her family, her children is taken care of, and that's the same way as for a queen. Empress Menon, she did everything in her power to make sure her children was educated, was taken care of. She built churches all over Ethiopia. She donated funds all over Ethiopia. She went to Jerusalem, built churches in Jerusalem. She donated enough of her palaces, for the sisters, for the daughters, to learn how to sew, to learn how to work for themselves, to learn how to be their own boss, and instead of just, being a housewoman, a housewife or whatever, and being, submissive, to the man. She is teaching them they could be rulers too, they could be diplomats also, they could be intelligent, same way, and she contributes so much to Ethiopia, and it's sad that many don't really speak on the accomplishments of Empress Menon, and what she really did for Ethiopia. You see, that's why the emperor always praise her. You say him and her never had an argument. They never disagreed or nothing. He always listened to her humble advice. He always take heed to her. He always, go to her and ask her, what you think about this? What you think about that? And she gave him an answer, and he take heed to that. He go through that, even with the war, Enough don't know that Empress Menon was the one that told His Majesty to go and approach the League of Nations and let the world know what they did, breaking the treaty. You see it? Breaking the treaty. They supposed to been there for Ethiopia, and they didn't. So she was saying, you know what? Expose them devils. You see it? You have to stay alive to do this. Don't worry about what they think about you, that they thinking you coward out or you run or whatever like that. Let them think that later on they can see what you really did. So you see, she saw the future. That's the gift the queens them get. They get that intuition. They get that foresight. They get that spirit of discernment. They can see things before it happens. So she already see what's going on. So she just give Jah the word, and Jah, and through that critical time, you know, some man them they'll be so frustrated when the queens come to them and tell them what to do. She's like, man, woman, go sit down. You see my people die, and I ain't gonna cow it out. I ain't gonna lead them. See all my warriors and all the women and children dying from the mustard gas and thing. Woman, go sit down. The emperor, he didn't get frustrated with her. He's sitting humble because he know the power she have, he know the wisdom she have. So he's sat and listened to her, and he took heed and moved through, you know. So we give thanks for the power Empress Menon, man. You know, she's the divine goddess. That's why Emmanuel always asks the queens them to, you know, take on the spirit of Empress Menon, you know, follow her, you know, live by her example. You see? So that could tell you right there, like, it's not wrong for the Empress them to donate funds to build schools, and you know, because that's what Empress Menon is doing. So when you see the Empress them come and want to donate or contribute, you know, to something great financially, physically, whatever it may be, don't turn them down, man. You know, let them join it. Let them join the fight. You know, for freedom, for liberation. You know, don't turn the Empress them down, man. Just put them up front, you know, and give the Empress them a chance to rule again how they was ruling from before, you know, because the man say all things must be rectified within the Empress League. You see, the Empress League have the power. You see it, March 23rd, you know, 1980, you know, the Empress League was formed to bring all goddesses to right. You know, he established the woman's government. You see, to give the woman her own government within his government. You see it, the man done said it's just for I and I, the man them to continue to push it, to continue to push them up front, continue to promote them. You see, don't just leave them behind, man. Jordan said it where he gave them his government. So let them govern, let them rule, man. Said it right for them. Empress Menon, Selassie, Jah, Rastafari. Give thanks, you know, for all listening ears, you know, and it's the Queen's them time, you know, and I share with the man them. Because even with me and my Empress, you know, we we try to work together. We don't have time for childish behavior. You see it, because we know there's a serious battle out here, black man and black woman facing. You see, if you watch the movies, they always showing the other races having healthy homes. And when you look at the black man and woman, they have dysfunctional homes. So, you know, they don't get their agenda set up, the picture, to paint a picture of I and I them always arguing, always dysfunctional, always toxic. You see it? So we have to be like King Alpha and Queen Omega, you know, gotta come as one unit, you know, as one flesh, you know. Yeah, we'll have certain disagreements on a level where um you have your own choices, or you have your own opinion. You have different opinions, that you have different opinions how you see things, you know. But you still come to one agreement to be like, all right, yeah, we could do it this way. You know, you always have to come to a healthy agreement, man, when you with your queen, you know. Always make your queen feel that, you know, she's being heard. You see it, and you will always know that you have a just queen. You'll know if you have a righteous queen or if you have a conniving, wicked queen, you know. You'll know, you know, because if you're a man who love peace, you're going to tolerate no folly. And a queen who love peace and who love, you know, a sanity, she ain't gonna accept no man who playing games either. So, you know, the right ones will always come together. I say a wicked woman is given to a wicked man, and a righteous woman is given to a righteous man. You see it? It always, the spirit always connect. You see it? Like a wicked woman and a righteous man can't be together. It just ain't gonna work out. But a wicked woman and a wicked man, they'll be fighting, they'll be toxic, and you'll always see them still together, still make back up because that's the life they live in, a toxic life. You see? So give thanks, The man say, beauty is vain and favors deceit, but a woman that fears the Lord is worthy to be praised. Look for a woman that fears the Lord, a woman that has that rulership mentality, the woman that has that just rulership mentality. Empress Menon, Celestia, Jah, Rastafari. Give thanks, for all loved ones near and far. Give thanks for the item time tonight. Hope I kept the item too long tonight. I give thanks, and until we meet again. Blessed love.